All right, welcome back. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Just click the link below. And if you have questions on this video, please leave them in the comments as well. So in this one, I'm going to cover the Single Member LLC. So I get a lot of questions from new business owners on what entity you should kind of structure your business as. And the first video I did was on sole proprietorships. Now we're going to do the Single Member LLC. In this video, I'm going to walk through kind of the benefits, the drawbacks, and then I'll give an example of a tax return, kind of showing you where you report your revenue, your expenses, and how that flows through on your personal return. And then in future videos, I'm going to cover, the C Corp, the partnership, the S Corp. But again, this video is just the Single Member LLC. So again, any questions, leave them below. And if there's any other videos that you'd like to see from me, I get a lot of questions on various topics on tax, financial planning, and recently it's been a lot of questions on what entity to select. So enjoy. Thank you. All right, in this video here, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. There's only going to be 2 slides. I'm going to talk about the benefits, the drawbacks, and what you need to do when setting up a single member LLC. So essentially what it is think of my earlier video on sole proprietorship, but now it's like a separate legal entity. So it's kind of separating the owner, which on a sole proprietorship, there's really no kind of protection there. And you're just starting a business. Here it's a separate legal entity. And for tax purposes, it's called like a disregarded entity. And then, at the end of these slides, I'm going to show you an example of a tax return on how you report your single member LLC kind of revenue and expenses. Now, as a single member LLC, you can operate as is, right, as that entity, or you can make like an S election and be an S Corp, which will be covered in the S Corp video. So in this video, it's strictly your single member LLC. So the benefits is it's pretty easy to kind of get started. There's a lot of flexibility from a tax standpoint. But the biggest here is the limited liability protection. So as you're kind of starting your business, if you're a sole proprietor and something were to happen within your business and you get sued, all your personal assets are kind of like up for grabs. Like if you own a home, if you got, personal bank accounts, personal investment accounts, all those are kind of like up for grabs in a legal situation. With the single member LLC, it kind of has this like, corporate protection where if the business gets sued, everything within the business is up for litigation, but your personal assets are protected and those aren't subject. However, you got to remember that when you're running your single member LLC, you got to run it from the business. And I'm going to cover this in the second slide here, meaning that you're buying stuff from your business bank account, right? You're receiving money from your customers and it's going through your business bank account. Everything is run from your business bank account that has your business, LLC name. It's got the EIN from the IRS. You're running everything from the business, not from your personal accounts. So that's very important. Some of the drawbacks, there's self-employment tax, and that's going to come into play with a partnership if you elect to do that. Self-employment tax also comes into play as a sole proprietorship. So that's not going away. Self-employment tax is 15.2% on the profit of the business. So that's in addition to your income tax. Limited growth potential. The reason why I put this here, meaning that if you decide to kind of raise capital from investors or you want to bring on additional partners, you can't really do that with a single member LLC. Then you got to kind of change the structure of this entity. And then potential personal guarantee on loans. So if you get a loan from a bank, even though you got this single member LLC, they're probably going to ask for a personal guarantee. So these are kind of like, the mini benefits, I call it, and the mini drawbacks, of a single member LLC. Now, what do you need to do to kind of get started? So first off, you want to register with the Secretary of State. So you want to file your articles of organization. So I'm based here in Illinois. You can kind of do this online. Every state's different on how they do this, but you want to register your the business name, and you can kind of do a search as well to see if that your LLC is a name available, because you want to make sure that the name of your company ends in LLC. So if it's ABC LLC, you want to make sure that name is available. You register with the Secretary of State, and then every year you're going to file like an annual report with the Secretary of State. Okay, so that's step number 1. Step number 2, and by the way, you can do this yourself. You can have an attorney do this. There's websites that will do this for you. So then step number 2 is obtain an EIN, employer identification number, from the IRS. So if you go to irs.gov or you Google, registering EIN, you can do this all online on the IRS website. It's free. They don't charge it, but you're going to need this number. And it's kind of like a social security number for your single member LLC. So you're going to need that. And it probably takes 5-10 minutes. It's going to ask you for your, business address, your name, your social security number, because you're the business owner, what state are you operating from? What are you doing as a business, right? Are you selling goods? Are you selling services? So it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. And at the very end, so it's kind of like a questionnaire, you're going to get this number, and you want to, print that page. You want to keep that page, for your records, because that's kind of, like I said, your social security number. Next, you want to register with your state. So this is different than the Secretary of State. So like the state of Illinois, there's a Secretary of State where you register kind of your organization. And then there's another site, and, unfortunately with the state of Illinois, maybe other states are different, but this registration in this with the Secretary of State, they don't talk to each other. So in Illinois, it's the My Illinois Tax website that you would go to. You would register your business, and that's where you can kind of pay taxes. If you plan on hiring people, you can get your unemployment number there, but you're going to have to do this. And if you want to do it through like paper mail, right? So there's a PDF. It's called an REG-1. Again, this is more for Illinois here. So once you have done at least steps 1 and 2, then you can go to like a Chase Bank or go to any bank, and you want to open up a business bank account and a credit card account. And this is important, like I said earlier, because you want to run the business through this business bank account. And the banks will want to have these 2 things, right? They want to see your EIN, and they want to make sure that you've registered with the Secretary of State in that state. And then you may ask, well, how do I get money into the account? The fact that I, put money from my personal account in my business, I get sued. Does that open up your personal? Well, you got to fund the business. So, think of like maybe you put $1,000, $5,000 or $10,000, make it a one transfer into the business bank account. Now you got funds to kind of get started, right? To kind of pay your vendors and stuff like that. Next, and very important, is open up like an accounting file. I noted QuickBooks Online here. If you're going to go that route, there's the Essentials plan. I really like QuickBooks Online. There's another company out there called Xero, spelled Xero. That's another option. If you want to go the free option route, there's one called Wave Apps. So WAVE apps.com. It's cloud-based. And all these tools will connect to your bank account. So all your transactions that come through will go through these accounting files. And why this is important is it will create like a balance sheet and an income statement for you. And you'll use that income statement. So the income statement is like your revenue and expenses. You'll use that statement to prepare your tax return. So that's why this is very important. We see a lot of people kind of look at the monthly fees on these accounting softwares and say, I'll manage my accounts on Excel or Google Sheets. And A, it's time consuming to do that. B, we see a lot of errors. And C, if you ever get audited by the IRS and they ask for financials and you show them some Excel spreadsheet or Google sheet, it's not going to look good. So we highly recommend using QuickBooks. Wave Apps is good. Xero is another good one. So these are kind of like the fundamentals to kind of make sure you do. And then, just two important points here with your single member LLC is, again, keep it all within the business. Okay. And then for tax reporting as a single member LLC, you don't file a separate business tax return. All this goes on your personal tax return, and it's called a Schedule C. And that's going to be the last part of this video. I'm going to show you what the Schedule C looks like and how that all rolls through on your personal tax return. So again, keeping it very simple. Make sure you do all these steps here. And then here's some important items. Now, one thing that I didn't note here is once you become profitable and you continue to grow, you're going to have to consider quarterly tax estimates, where you pay the IRS every quarter based on the profit of your business. I'll probably create another video on that, but I just wanted to create a very kind of simple video on the single member LLC. Thanks. All right. So here's the kind of like the last component of the video. I'm just going to walk you briefly on how this single member LLC kind of shows up on a personal return. So it's called the Schedule C. Okay. And like I said, there's no separate business tax return that you file for your single member LLC. And frankly, we see this a lot where someone has a single member LLC. They think that they need to file a separate business tax return. So they go ahead and file their personal return and leave out their single member LLC. Then they end up having to go back and amend their personal returns because they left it out. So here's the Schedule C. It shows up on your personal tax return. It's one of those tax forms. You enter your, the company name, right? So here's the taxpayer's name. Here's their business name, the address, select cash basis, accrual basis, and you kind of put your revenue, right? So here's your total gross receipts, and then you list your expenses, right? Advertising, office expenses. Then you get to a profit, right? So here's the $23,900, okay? So that's this schedule here, Schedule C. You got your revenue and you got your expenses. And why having an accounting software that's doing the accounting for you, you'll be able to create this schedule really, really easily. So now let's go back to page 1 of your 1040, and you're going to scroll down here and you see this line item, other income, that $23,900. That's where the income from your single member LLC is going to show up. Okay. So that's kind of the flow. So Schedule C shows you the detail, or it tells the IRS the detail of your business. And then on page 1 of your 1040, that's where it's going to show up the bottom line, the profit, because that's what you pay tax on. Okay. Now, another perk of a single member LLC is there's a deduction called the qualified business income tax deduction. Okay. So this amount here further reduces what you have to pay in tax, right? And this is a calculation based on your income here from your single member LLC. So you can see in this case, the gross amount, the profits, right, is $23,900. That's subject to tax, but you get to further reduce it by another $4,600. And typically it's up to 20% of this profit here. Okay. Then there's like a phase out based on other factors. So that's like another pro of this single member LLC. So, that's the flow through of the personal tax return. Again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching.